Good morning and thanks for tuning in to Heartland Leatherworks. This morning we're going to be doing a real quick video how-to series for the leathercraft stuff. So this morning what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over the top 10 tools that you're going to need to get started in the leathercraft, and we're going to try to keep it really simple so that it's really affordable, that pretty much anybody will be able to start doing leathercraft as early as next week when we post our first new video. So let's get to the video. Series, we're going to start out real simple doing some leathercraft stuff that it's going to build upon. So if you think about it, it'll be kind of like math when you use it in school. We're going to start out with simple stuff, and then as we keep on going, we'll kind of build upon that. And what we're going to do this morning is go over the top 10 tools that I think that you're probably going to want right off the bat. And we're going to keep it as simple and cheap as possible, and we're going to start out doing stuff. A lot of this stuff you probably already have, so it's going to make it even cheaper to get into it. But I think when I figured it up, I don't remember if you used to buy every single thing on the list, and that's the top 10. I think it was a little under $100, but you're going to be able to do a lot better than that because a lot of this stuff, I promise you, you probably already have. So the number one thing you're going to need, and a lot of people who start out with these similar top 10 tools, it never gets brought up, but the number one thing that you've got to have, and that's a workspace. And you can see we've got the workbench out here. We've got, actually, because Angie does this pretty much, that's her job, for her full-time job is leather work. We've actually got a couple of workbenches also. But you're going to need a workbench, a workspace. Now, don't go out and think that you need to go out and spend a lot of money. A workspace could be as simple as something as using your kitchen table. It could be a desk that you already have, maybe just move some stuff off your desk. Just get some of the clutter out of the way, or in my case, I always have stuff all over my desk, so I'd have to move a bunch of clutter out of my way. But you're going to need a workspace, and that's going to be number one. And obviously that's not something that you're necessarily going to have to go out and buy, but in your mind be thinking about it right now so that when you get ready to start the project, and we'll start the project coming up pretty quick, that's going to be number one. Number two is going to be a cutting board. Now you can go to Tandy or some of those places and they sell these cutting boards right here, or you can just use a regular cutting board from the kitchen. We've got I don't know, we've got 2 or 3 in our kitchen that I know that would actually work, and they're kind of the same material as this. It's just some sort of plastic, nothing fancy. The one I found on Amazon was roughly $14, and I'm going to put these top 10 in the list down below so you can actually look at them. But that's going to be number 2 as a cutting board. Number 3 is going to be a ruler. Odds are you probably already have a ruler, and it wouldn't really matter. Basically, you're going to need it for the straight edge for cutting. So, and then that's number 4 is going to be a box knife. There's a lot of really nice, cool, and I didn't bring my round knife out here, but this is a kind of a specialty leathercraft knife right here. And then I can just tell you from experience, 9 times out of 10, if you've just got a regular box knife, whether it be like this one here is a Cobalt, it's from Lowe's, and they actually had these on sale when I was at Lowe's right before Christmas. I was walking through there, and these were on sale for like $4. So I mean, it's not going to be super expensive. Again, I've got a knife with an Amazon link down below, but again, this is just another variation of and this is a Cobalt also. It's just a regular box knife or some sort of cutting blade, but it needs to be sharp, so that's why I start off when I say kind of the beginner's kit. The box knives, when you can put the disposable razor blades in there, a lot of times that's easier than somebody trying to figure out how to sharpen a knife, because you need it to be really sharp. You don't want a dull tool is a more dangerous tool than a sharp tool, because you end up trying to cut harder than what you need to, trying to cut the leather, and then you end up cutting yourself. So to keep it safe, we're going to try to go with something that's already sharp. Down the road, after you've been doing it a while and you realize it's something you want to do, then we'll switch over to maybe something where you could actually do the edge maintenance yourself. But for the time being, we're just going to go with the box knife. Okay, the next thing is going to be the Bargs glue, and it's they sell it in the bigger quarts like this. I think this is what do they call it? what size that is. That's a big one. They actually sell smaller tubes. That one there's a little more expensive. It's closer to $30. I would not go out and buy that one right now because you don't know how much you're going to need right off the bat. And the stuff does go bad. So if you open it up and you don't use it all, it's going to end up turning into a great big rubber ball that's useless. So I'll put a link down below, and it's to the smaller tubes. The thing I do like about this is it's probably kind of the industry standard as far as a rubber cement. And the way it works is it actually sticks to itself instead of sticking to everything else. So if you accidentally get some on your table or whatever, after it dries, you should be able to rub it and get it off, and it won't be that big of a deal. It's easy to clean up. They also sell a cleaner that you can actually take it off. I've never bought the cleaner. I've just kind of, you know, scraped it off or whatever if it got on something that I didn't intend for it to. But once it sticks together, and that's going to be real important when we get ready to start sewing our leather pieces together, we're going to use the Barg's rubber cement, put it on the edges of what we're making, and then stick it together so that it's not moving around when you're trying to sew it. So that's why it's really important. And again, I'll put a link down to the smaller tube down below, and I'm showing here, like I said, the bigger one's like $25, and then the small tube's only like $7. So to keep it cheap, I'd buy the $7 one. It's $7.25 or whatever. The next thing you might want to get is going to be the dye, and we always use the fibbings. There's several different kinds of dyes out there, guys. With us doing more of the natural earth tones, we do use a lot of their product, but there's a lot of leather dyes out there, and I'm not going to say that's the only one to go to. This is going to be your project. It's going to be something that you get to do, and it's going to be your creativity. So if you want to do something in a color, get a color, because there's a lot of cool colors out there. There's the reds, there's the blues, greens, any more, almost any color you can think of, you can get it in a dye. When I started out doing this 20 some odd years ago, you kind of had blue. I don't remember there being red. There probably was. Black and browns, and the color line that they have now is actually pretty sweet, because you can pick out a color like a royal blue, and it'll end up looking royal blue instead of bluish. So it's actually pretty sweet. We typically use the Pro Dye, and if you look on this little bottle, it even says Pro Dye. It's just what we prefer. I'm not saying that it's better than the other stuff, because the other stuff is just different. So what I would suggest is these little deals right here, let me see, is roughly $8 for one of these small deals. And being cheap enough like that, don't go out and buy 4 or 5 of them, because you're going to be up to $30 or $40. But pick out one, maybe 2, and experiment with it and see what you like. Because just because that's what I use and what we like doesn't necessarily make it right. Again, it's all creativity, and it's going to be your project that you're working on. So you'll want to get some dye. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about that you're going to need, and it's going to be item number 7 on the list, is going to be needles. And I'll zoom in on this so you can see it a little bit better. But as you can see, we've got several different needles in here, and depending on what we're doing, I've actually bent some of them so that you can sew into something a lot tighter. The biggest deal on these is the stitching needles need to have a pretty decent sized eye on them, because the thread that you're going to want to use for the leather, and what I'm going to suggest, is going to be a waxed thread. It's going to be quite a bit thicker than what you're probably used to seeing, especially if you're coming from doing regular cloth sewing or whatever. This thread is quite a bit thicker. In fact, it's huge compared to thread that you would see on your shirt that's sewn up or whatever. So you're going to want a pretty good size eye on the needle. That way you're not messing with that for a great deal of time. And we will go through the sewing part when we start our first project, and that's going to be where it'll make more sense to you then anyways. But this is tiger thread, and the reason that I'm showing you this is it comes in these bigger spools like this, and I'm not going to say it's overly expensive. It's only like $10, $15 for the roll, and I've got a link down below to it as well. I'm going to send you to a place called RM Leather Supply. They're the cheapest that I found online that actually carry this, and this is bar none the best thread that I found. Tandy does sell a wax thread as well, and they also sell it in smaller containers, so I'm not sure price wise what it's going to break down to, but a lot of times the little kit that you could get at Tandy is going to be cheaper. But again, I've got the link down below, and I'll send you over to RM Leather Supply. You can look at it on there, and that's going to be the Ritza, R-I-T-Z-A Tiger thread. And like I say, I really like it. It's good quality thread, and the wax that's on here is actually a quality wax as well. It doesn't get crusty like some of the other threads will. And then item number 8 is going to be an awl, and this is going to be for poking holes in your leather so we can sew. So that's, again, I've got one of these little kits listed down below, and it has a little awl if you buy the little kit, and it's one of these, I think it's a needle and thread kit for like 14 bucks, and it comes with an awl. And I can't vouch for that and say that it's a great awl or not, but you can pick up an awl really cheap. And if you want to skip that entire process, if you've got a nail you can sharpen up, even that'll work. So it doesn't have to be super fancy. We just need to get a hole that's big enough that you can slide these needles through without a huge problem. So like I say, that's going to be number 8. Number 9 is going to be a burnishing tool. Again, we'll have a link down below. These are real cheap. This one here is made by Craft Tool, and it's got these little different ridges for your different thicknesses of leather. So depending on how thick the leather is, you'll want this little burnishing tool, and then you'll also want a little piece of wax. And probably a lot of you have some paraffin wax already in your house. Paraffin wax will work. Beeswax will work. So we'll use that when we get ready to circle slick the edges, and that's basically what we're going to burnish the edges. There's also a little tool, and it's about this big around, and it's called a circle slicker. If you want to look that up, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon as well. And it's made out of plastic, and it works pretty good for what it is. It's a little plastic piece, and it's at just a few bucks also. And then number 9 was the burnishing tool. Number 10 is going to be just some leather, and for the projects that we're going to be doing right now, if you want to write this down, you're going to probably look at 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 ounce leather. That's going to be about right. The template that I'm going to have available for download for the project that we're going to be working on, our first project, is I'm using 3 to 4 ounce leather on that. So if you were to use the 4 to 5 ounce leather, you might want to make that a little bit bigger around because it's going to be a little bit thicker. So like I say, the template is going to be for 3 to 4 ounce leather, and you can pick that up pretty cheaply. I was at Tandy earlier today, and I want to say that they had 12 by 12 sheets for, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks or something like that. And it's possible that me and Angie's kind of tossed the idea on some of these little kits that we may actually offer a kit with a little bit of leather and the wax thread, and maybe we could do it in a way to where it would be more affordable than trying to buy a big huge piece of leather for a small project that you're not sure if you're wanting to be a leather crafter yet or not, but just something to get you going. It might be cheaper to buy the little smaller pieces for the projects, specifically for the projects, along with some good quality wax thread, and that way you're not having to buy a big huge amount. But we haven't decided to do that yet. We will have the PDF download for the project that we're going to do next week, and it'll be on our website at heartlandleatherworks.com. So number 11 is just basically it's going to be bring a good attitude, and we're going to have fun. This is going to be a fun series, and it's going to be something where we can kind of learn together. I've been doing leather work for over 20 years, closer to 25 years, and I don't claim to know it all. So there's going to be some things that maybe you guys may point out that I don't know, but the biggest deal is we're going to learn together, and we're going to have fun and make it just make it a fun project, because that's what it's all about. It's winter time. This will give us something to do. We can make a few things for around the house or make a few things for camp, but that's going to be what the whole idea is, and the concept behind all this is just to have fun together. Now for optional tools, I picked out 3 optional tools because these are things, if you decide that you do want to do the leather craft, there are going to be some tools that you're going to want. Number 1, you're going to want a hammer of some sort. They make these little rawhide hammers like this one. They've also got some poly ones. The little rawhide mallet roughly is 20 bucks. I'll have a link for it down below also. the stitching groover, which is a leather groover, and I said stitching groover, but it's a leather groover, and I normally groove out the areas where I'm going to be stitching. And we'll go over this tool and how to use it next week when we're actually working on the project. But this tool right here, of the tools, is, let's see here, it's like 14 bucks. So this and the mallet so far are going to be the most expensive tools of everything besides a cutting board. And again, if you already got a cutting board, you don't have to buy that. But this tool here is actually, it's going to be real handy. It's something that I use pretty regular, but I'm not going to say I use it all the time. So that's why I'm putting it in there in the optional. A hammer at some point you're going to want. It's going to be great for the next item. This is going to be what they call a pricking iron set. And basically this has got a bunch of teeth in it so that when you're getting ready to, and you're going down your sew line, you can go through there and punch several holes at the same time. And the reason I'm showing you two of them is you're going to want one for like if you were doing a rounded edge, this isn't going to do a circle because it's too many teeth. So you get down there close to your circle and then you can go one stitch at a time around the curve or whatever. And then also this one here again is from Tandy, and it's going to be, this one's got 4 teeth on it, and it's just a simple tool. I'm showing just around 9 bucks for 1 or 2 of these. And like I say, if you have the money to get 2, I'd buy a single tooth and then a multi-tooth. And I'm not going to be able to say that you would want a 6 or 8 or this one here is 4 teeth, because it would really depend on you and what you end up doing down the road. As you'll know more about it after you do a little bit, but I wouldn't go out and spend a great deal of money on these because they can get expensive quickly too, because there's sets of these that'll run all the way up to $100 or $50 if you know buying the whole complete set, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. I'm telling you right here, this one here is I use all the time, or have used more than anything. And it looks like you've got 6 teeth on one and 1 tooth on the other. So that makes it real simple. And that's going to be, that is the 3 optional tools that we're going to suggest. So again, I'll have the Amazon links down below to everything that we've kind of went over. If you want to click on them, I will tell you that we are an Amazon affiliate. So if you were to click and purchase, they give us a nickel or 2. It's a very small amount. You won't see the difference in your cart, but the money that we make goes back into the channel. So if you do buy or purchase anything down below by using the links below, it's going to go back to the channel, and it just helps us to make more videos for you guys so that we don't have 100% out-of-pocket costs on a lot of this stuff. We will also have the PDF download for next week's lesson, if you will, or project. It's going to be on our website at heartlandleatherworks.com, and it's not on there right now, but by the time next week rolls around, you'll be able to download that PDF. And what we are going to make next week, what I thought would be fun, is this is a cast iron skillet, and this is the Lodge brand, and it's going to be this leather handle so that you don't burn yourself. So I thought that would be fun. It's also going to be easy, and it's just a couple of small pieces of leather, so you're not going to need to go out and buy an entire hide. It's going to be a real cheap project. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a good way to get started into leather. So again, if you like our video, give us a big thumbs up. We appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. May you have a blessed week.